Welcome everybody. Happy Friday. Glad to have you all here with us today. We're really excited about today's webinar because it's part 2 of what Kimberly's been working on for more than a year, and it's really tremendous what she's got prepared for us today. I would offer a lengthy explanation, but Kimberly, I'd like you to talk a little bit more about what it is that you've done, prepared, how long it took, etc.
Okay, so your first question was about how long that I have been working on this. The brainchild, the excitement of creating the foods aspect came way back when we started creating AcuGraph 5. And as we created the grocery list, I just got really excited about how I could incorporate this into my own clinic. And I would say probably for a good year, I have been developing the information that I'm sharing today. And that's between here and in my own personal clinic, because this is something that I use in my own clinic as well.
Outstanding. And today is kind of the fun part, because last time we talked about how you can use the food recommendations in AcuGraph, how you can do food as therapy. Today, you're going to focus a little bit more on how you can make it fun, how you can make it so your patients enjoy it, and how you can make it a way to add an additional revenue stream to your practice. It can be profitable to help people enjoy eating well and enjoy eating food as therapy. So let's get into it.
Okay. So let me bring up my screen here. Okay, today's presentation is part 2 from part 1, and we are talking about how you can actually make money being a foodie. I'm going to give you a little reminder of what you learned in your last webinar. So if this is your first TCM Foodie webinar, you're definitely going to want to go back and look at the last one. In the last one, we taught you the basics of a TCM diet, traditional Chinese medicine. We taught you how the database was created in AcuGraph 5 and where we gathered all the information and how it was all put together, the big undertaking that took. And then we taught you how to use your AcuGraph 5 to give your patients a printed grocery list for dietary food recommendations in their AcuGraph. And then, so this webinar is a little different. This webinar, we're talking about creativity, and really, creativity is my favorite part of this webinar. I'm going to come back to my own screen here. Creativity for me started in the kitchen many, many years ago. When I was a little girl, I remember my grandmother giving me my very first cookbook, and I began exploring in the kitchen way back when as a child. And then when I became a mother, I had to learn creativity out of necessity. It was back from when I had just one child, a couple of kids, all the way up until I had 9 kids. There were many times that money was lean and I had to learn to be creative in the kitchen. And so therefore I learned to cook. I learned the basics. I learned how to create my own stuff. And then throughout the years, I've been able to take that creativity and use it to bless my family. But then as I became an acupuncturist and I learned about TCM dietary therapy, I was able to expand to the next level and use that creativity in the kitchen in that way as well. So
I'm going to throw in a quick testimonial. I don't want to stop your flow, Kimberly, but everybody who has never tried a dish that Kimberly has cooked, you are missing out. She is very talented. She knows what she's talking about here, and she is a foodie through and through. She always loves trying new things, always loves going new places. So this really is kind of Kimberly's in her happy place today, and you'll kind of watch. You'll see that as she talks. Sorry, Kimberly. I just had to say
that's okay. So wait. So I have to model my apron here. if you were to come to my house in my kitchen, I actually have I have a whole rack full of aprons, and it's just whatever apron that I feel like wearing, because of course you need to have to get your creative juices flowing for food. To me, it's the creative aprons that go with it. So I love aprons, and we have a lot of fun. There's always a Christmas gift at my house that involves a new apron, and I love it. So today I'm wearing the black polka dots because it matches my jewelry, and so I'll move on. Let's see. So creativity is intelligence having fun. The way that creativity really starts is by putting a bunch of knowledge in your mind, and then once that knowledge is there, you can pick it out and use it as needed. So I want to talk to you first, before we get into this, about my personal philosophies in relation to food therapy. I think food therapy is definitely just is an adjunct. I don't think it is the one-all be-all for healing. I think everyone should eat a good, healthy diet, and that needs to be the foundation. But I'm very strong on acupuncture and herbs. I think acupuncture and herbs, when I'm first dealing with my patients, that brings the quickest, fastest results. And then I add dietary therapy afterwards. So when my patients come into my clinic, for the most part, acupuncture and herbs are my go-to. And then once I get things balanced in their body, then I use dietary therapy as the adjunct. I recognize that we all have different thought philosophies on what a good diet is. Whether you are vegan or whether you go towards paleo or a high protein, low carb, as acupuncturists, we will all have different philosophies and different thoughts, and there is room for your own creativity here. So I just wanted to kind of give the caveat that the foods that are recommended in AcuGraph 5 are basic traditional Chinese medicine, following the basic philosophies of Chinese medicine. But the foundational diet that I teach my patient is, it follows that philosophy, but it also leans towards my own personal philosophies. And so wherever you are in your philosophies, you can still take the things that I'm teaching you and use them accordingly. I like to recognize that there is a basic TCM diet, which is helpful, but then the beauty of a TCM diet is that as life is always changing, so your diet continues to change based on the symptoms and the patterns that are emulating in your body. So that's why you can get really creative and have fun, because it is always changing. And then, of course, the final one, number 5, food should taste good and you should enjoy your food. And I remember learning from Alex Tiberi when I was in college, and he used to say, you know, you get all these TCM practitioners who learn all these fabulous things about a diet, and then they're afraid to go to grandma's house because grandma might feed them something that is just horrible for the spleen and all the fat and everything else. And Alex Tiberi always taught that if that food is made with love and it's got the love going on in it, then you can balance your diet accordingly. So not that you always want to eat the food from grandma's house, but when you're at grandma's house, you should enjoy, and then you should move back on track. That's my philosophy. So today's intent for today's webinar, I'm going to teach you how to use AcuGraph to become, use AcuGraph as one of your tools to become a TCM foodie expert. And then as you become an expert, I'm going to teach you how to get creative. And then with your expertise and your creativity, there are ways that you can make money using this avenue of our medicine. So let's talk about becoming a foodie expert. The first thing that you need to know is you need to know your TCM patterns. That is very important. You need to be able to recognize when a patient comes in with symptoms regarding blood stagnation, internal wind, damp heat, Most of us in our TCM education, this was drilled into us all the way through college. I do recognize that there are some who did not study TCM patterns as much. They learned more of a channel theory, or you learned acupuncture as an adjunct to therapy. So what you really have to do is to understand the food portion of a TCM diet, you do need to recognize the patterns. Luckily, in AcuGraph, it is really easy to do that. When we created AcuGraph 5 and we created the food portion, we wanted to have the information at your fingertips. For me, it was ingrained in me in college. TCM patterns just flow through my brain on a regular basis. And when I see symptoms, I'm looking at tongues and I'm asking more questions and I'm developing a pattern in my head. But I recognize that for not everyone, that it came that way. So we developed inside of AcuGraph a way that you could easily differentiate which patterns your patient has. So it is as simple as this. If you open up your patient's file and you click on the last graph, so open up any patient's file, click on the graph, and then click on the food tab. Then choose whatever meridian that you want to look at. So in this instance, I've circled the kidney. So we will click on the kidney, and then to the left, there's a list of patterns. I'm curious, can you see my mouse? You can. So there are a list of patterns here that are in relation to the kidney channel. Click on any one of those, and then to the right, the symptoms of that pattern will show up. So it will help you to differentiate. Let's see, let's go to the next slide. So practice, you just have to practice this on a regular basis. I'm going to open up AcuGraph really quick for you. So I have AcuGraph opened here, and this is my own chart. I can click on any graph. Next, I'm going to click on food therapy, and here, if I am clicking on the spleen and I want to know more about spleen damp, the key symptoms are listed right here in this box to the right. And if I want to click on stomach and understand stomach chi deficiency, then the symptoms are listed right there. So whatever pattern you want to research out, whether it is lung wind heat and you want to become more familiar, AcuGraph has a way for you to go in and study and become the expert on understanding the patterns. Once you become the expert in understanding patterns, then it's just going to come to your mind on a regular basis. And the next step is teaching your patients. So what I do in my clinic is I like to teach my patients a very basic spleen happy diet. In AcuGraph, you're coming up with dietary recommendations for pattern imbalances, but the first step is to just teach your patients how they need to eat on a regular basis. And I have created a document that I use in my clinic, and in this document, I recommend that you create one that fits your personal philosophies for how you want your patients to eat in general. And so you're going to teach them how to eat on a daily basis. And then the important part is to teach them that when their body is out of balance and they're recognizing symptoms, that is when you will help them adjust their diet. So this spleen happy meal document that you create is really the foundation. So I'm going to give you, as part of this presentation, a handout that has the document that I give in my clinic. And it basically if this is your philosophy, fantastic. If it's not and you need to create adjustments, mostly I'm giving it to you as an idea to get your juices flowing. This is what I hand to my patients when I am talking about dietary therapy in my clinic. So on later in your portal, in the webinar portal, you'll be able to click on a download and this handout will be there and available for you. Did you want to?
I just put it up right now. I just put up the link over, should show up on the side of your screen where you can click to download the free resources that you're giving out today, Kimberly. So it's up.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So that is, I just thought I would share that. I know that some people are really great at coming up with their own documents. Others like to have the opportunity to glom off of somebody else's creativity. So there you go. That is my gift to you. After you've taught your patients about a basic TCM diet, the next step is to teach them that food is medicine. So symptoms, patients don't think in the way of patterns, you do, but patients think in the way of symptoms. So they will come in and they'll complain of menopause or irritability or bad breath, whatever their symptoms are. You want to help them recognize that you can help them adjust their diet in conjunction with acupuncture so that you can resolve these symptoms. So all of that knowledge that you put in practicing to understand your patterns helps you then to recognize, the type of diet that you will give your patient. Are they suffering from hot flashes from menopause, from kidney yin deficiency? So they're going to complain of menopause, you're going to give them a kidney yin deficiency diet. If they are irritable all the time and their major pattern is liver qi stagnation, you can give them a diet that is specific to liver qi stagnation. So you have lots of room for building that knowledge within, and AcuGraph is a great tool to be able to do that. And then of course the grocery lists that you can give them are in AcuGraph as well. So we're going to move on to becoming creative.
First, it's important that we complement all of those graphics that you had up there.
Did you like that?
Those are just delightful, especially, well, anyway, I'm not going to single anyone out, but.
Oh yeah. I mean, don't we all experience a lot of these different things at different times? I've covered up some of them, but yes. Fun. All right, so on to TCM Foodie Creativity. This is where it gets kind of fun. This is where once I had AcuGraph and AcuGraph 5 and I had these grocery lists and I was giving grocery lists to my patients, I just really wanted to be able to, I wanted my patients to be excited about food, and I wanted to hand them a grocery list, and then I wanted to give them ideas on how they could use that grocery list. And then I was trying to think, how could I advertise this? How can I get my patients excited about dietary therapy? And so that's where the creativity began. So as we move forward, I want you to recognize that at this point in the presentation, I'm assuming that you've already developed your knowledge base as far as patterns. And now for the creativity, it's really important to have your patients recognize that food is medicine. So as they have symptoms show up, you want to teach them to create recipes, give them grocery lists, tell them to go home and get creative in their kitchens. So my favorite way to do this, and this was my foundation, you gotta love Google. If you are, there's just a wealth of knowledge available on Google, and I'm gonna walk you through how I walked into this. So let's just say we are dealing with stomach channel food stagnation. You got a patient who came in and they, it's been holiday weekend. They've been out barbecuing all the time. They've had a little bit too much to drink. Their symptoms that they come in with are pretty extreme food stagnation, obviously you're going to do acupuncture and you can give them Chinese herbs, but you've got this extra tool. You've got AcuGraph to be able to give them dietary recommendations. Well, why not give them a recipe? So here's how the creativity began for me. Here we've got food stagnation. Here are foods that would show up on a list for dietary recommendations for the grocery shopping. And I just picked out a few things. So you've got cucumber, mango, cayenne pepper, crab. And I've just bolded them and highlighted them here. If I went and Googled those 4 ingredients, or maybe I have those 4 ingredients in my refrigerator, but if I Google those 4 ingredients, I came up with this fabulous recipe for a mango crab salad. So here are all the, actually it was a mango salad, and here were the ingredients that I found for a mango salad. And then I thought, well, if you added crab into it, you could toss a cup of crab, and then there's a recipe for stomach food stagnation. I'm going to give you a couple more examples here. The next one would be if you had a patient with kidney yang deficiency, some of the items on the grocery list would be shrimp, basil, and pistachio nuts. So I just randomly threw those ingredients into Google and found a recipe that that had each of those, plus obviously a few more things, and kind of named my recipe. I could tell my patients, you know what, here's some date night shrimp. We're trying to, we're working here, we'd be focusing on the low libido aspect of it. And there's a recipe that would help. And then kidney yang deficiency, again, symptoms for kidney yang deficiency aren't just low libido, but it can be low back pain, knee pain. So if I have a patient who's coming in with any of these symptoms in relation to this pattern, I can get creative. If we go back, we were talking about shrimp, basil, and pistachio. Well, on that same list for kidney yang deficiency is also salmon, quinoa, fennel, and capers. So here's another recipe, baked salmon packets. And I just literally Googled some ingredients, came up with a recipe, and I could get creative. I could go on to social media. There's lots of ways that I could then take this, but I could even have a class and teach about TCM dietary therapy and give my patients lists and teach them how to go in and Google recipes. So really, if you have AcuGraph 5 and you have Google, you add the 2 of those together, and then you can come up with fun, easy recipes and have a little bit more fun with your patients using food as medicine. The next level, if you are like me and you like to take ingredients and go in your kitchen and cook and create things, the next level would be to do it Kimberly style. So I love to pick a pattern, pick some food off the list, and then just get creative myself. Sometimes I'll Google and get ideas. Other times I'll just, because obviously I'm an expert by now, right? I've been doing this for a lot of years. I pull all the ingredients together, go in my kitchen, and just get creative. So I'm going to give you a few examples of how you could imagine how this would work. Let's see. Here's lung phlegm heat attack. So the symptoms would be sore throat with phlegm. I got a patient or a family member and they've got sore throat with phlegm, and some of the key ingredients I have put together and created a dish. So this was a rice dish. These were all ingredients that came off of the lung phlegm heat attack in AcuGraph 5 and came up with a meal. I'm going to move on to another example. Anxiety and insomnia from heart yin deficiency. We've got a chicken potato soup with kale and a coconut milk base. If you want to get really creative and just add more ingredients that would pull it all together, you could add a dollop of yogurt with molasses and black sesame seeds. I mean, these are literally all ingredients off of the heart yin deficiency grocery list. And then, not to bore you, but I'll give you one more example. Here's stomach qi deficiency with nausea, vomit, poor digestion. Think of a patient who has morning sickness or weakness after chemotherapy. So you've got rice. You could stir fry some rice and add some rice and chicken and hazelnuts and mushroom and kale and drizzle with a little bit of soy sauce. Again, I didn't come up with all of the foods. AcuGraph did. But the whole intent is just to get creative in your kitchen. Let's see. Really, you want to become a resource to your patients where if they love food and you've got this extra resource, not only can you print them out a grocery list, but you can talk about the foods and you can get excited about the foods. If I'm cooking in my kitchen and I've created something that's really fun, I'll snap a picture of it. I'll put it on social media. I'll tell my patients, hey, here's a great recipe for such and such. Or I was not been able to sleep really well lately. I had acupuncture and here's a great recipe that I created in order to sleep better. So you have a lot of ways to have fun with this, and you can take it as big as you want or as small as you want. I'm just telling you how I have Kimberlyized AcuGraph in my home and in my clinic. Let's head back over to the presentation. So the next step in your creativity would be to, I suggest you take pictures. Take pictures of the food that you're creating, post it on social media, give it in little bites, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Your patients are following these types of things, so why not get interactive and show information? What's going to happen in the long run is your patients are going to see this little bit of extra about you, and you're just building the value of yourself as a practitioner. And they just begin to put you up on that pedestal higher and higher as the expert in the field. And it's simple and it's fun. So the next step is...
and really, Kimberly, I'll add, how many other healthcare practitioners are going to be giving their patients, delicious recipes, dishes, diets? It's a totally different paradigm that makes you unique. And so I love what you're saying about social media, because you will have patients that are posting this. Look what my acupuncturist did for me. Exactly.
And they are seeing you as someone different. So if you look at the patients who are coming into the clinics, I've written some articles. In my own personal experience, I find that social media is really effective in bringing in patients based on I have a clinic that is a lot of women, and I've found that most practitioners are treating a lot of women, and it's the women. I'm not trying to say that women are more hanging out online, but the women in the age group that come into my clinic, they're very much into social media and sharing, and it's been a really good resource for me. All right, next. So now how this makes you money. So we've obviously talked about you've built yourself as an expert, and as you build yourself as an expert, that in itself just patient retention, your patients who are telling more people about you, it all works in that way. What you need to do is you need to teach your patients from the beginning. So if you're going to use the food portion of AcuGraph to help build your income, when you have new patients, teach them about the spleen happy meal. You want, I tend to do that on the second or third visit. I tell them in the beginning that I will be doing acupuncture. We're going to be going through a series. as we recognize the things that are going on in your body, we'll be able to come up with dietary recommendations that will help solidify the changes that we are trying to make. So I plant the seeds in the beginning that this is what is going to happen. And then I actually, after things settle down, after the second or third visit, then I have a better idea of what their TCM pattern really is. And at that point in time is when I began the process of changing things up for them. So as they're a new patient, within that second or third visit, I'm giving them the new patient handout, which is about the Spleen Happy Meal. The Spleen Happy Meal is simply the basic way I want you to eat. The theories in Chinese medicine, the philosophies that I have for your basic foundational way of eating. And then, well, I'll get into what happens after that. If you're starting now and you've been using, you have a ton of old patients who don't know about dietary therapy in your new paradigm and how you're thinking about things, I would suggest emailing him the Spleen Happy Meal document, maybe putting it up on your website, possibly send out an email, blog, social media, and tell people, hey, we have something new here. We now have customized grocery lists. Give us a call. We would like to talk to you about your diet, talk about how their diet can help them, help their treatments last longer, help them to stay healthier longer before they need to come in again. So you can do all kinds of talking and chatting about that to get them ready. Once you have now educated everyone with your Spleen Happy Meal diet, the next step is constant reminders. So you've built that equity in yourself. You are the professional, you are the expert in your field, and patients are using quotes like this: my acupuncturist is a food specialist. They know that they can come to you. They know that they can come to you when something feels off in their body. And what has worked for me is sending out an email blog, and I focus on a symptom each month. I have handouts in my office. I mean, there are many ways that you could do this, but sending out an email or blog is one helpful way. In the email, you can focus on seasons. Obviously, you can use social media to give these constant reminders. It's giving constant reminders because my patient, and again, I'm talking to them about their symptoms, not about my patterns, but you know, if you're struggling with insomnia, and then I can bring it back and talk about how acupuncture and food therapy can help. Irritability, hemorrhoids. Think of the things that you typically treat in your office quite often, and the things that you want your patients to know about, that they should think about an acupuncturist. So what I have found is that if I will send one email and talk to my patients about some new thing, plant a seed within them, then it recommits old patients who haven't been in a while, and they say, oh, I need to call Kimberly. I need to call my acupuncturist. And so I have found that one email can create more than or equal to about $500 in increased revenue in the month. And that is because it reactivates old patients. It brings people out of the woodworks, people who haven't been in a while. And so I found when we added AcuGraph 5 and the dietary therapy, I started talking about food to my patients, because everybody eats. Not everybody has shoulder pain. Not everybody has hemorrhoids. Not everybody has anxiety. Not everybody has insomnia, but everyone eats. Everybody likes food. And when I shared from a food perspective with symptoms, it just started building a database of things that more things that my patient knew about me.
And I would add, Kimberly, that anytime you have a reason to get in front of your patients, anytime you have a reason to reach out to them, it puts you back into their consciousness, back into the forefront of their mind. And so even if what you're reaching out about has nothing to do with their problem, it still puts you back in their attention. And it results in patients coming back in that haven't seen you in a while. So it's always great to have a reason to talk to your patients. And this food program is a great opportunity to do that.
And what I have found is if I will plant seeds and just give patients information, many times patients will come back months and months later and said, Kimberly, a long time ago, you said acupuncture helps with hemorrhoids. Well, all of a sudden I have a hemorrhoid. And so you are the first person that I thought to call. Or I'm telling them, you know, about arthritis or recovery after surgery. They may not have surgery at that moment, but somewhere along the line, they're going to have a conversation with someone else, or an issue is going to come up in their lives, and I've educated them and they know that it's time to call me. And for the dietary therapy, I'm teaching them that symptoms means they have imbalances. So I am just using food as my way to talk to them. And everybody likes food and everybody likes recipes. And so that's how I've been able to be creative in this way. All righty. So where do you start? What I did was I kind of created an outline. I mean, I knew I wanted to do this once a month. I knew I needed 12. I mean, you can just start at one thing you want to talk about. But for me, it was sort of a year-long plan. And so I created an outline of what I wanted to, the information I wanted to give in my email/blog to my patients. So the starting point was I needed to pick a pattern. And obviously you can do that with AcuGraph. I needed to focus on one symptom of the pattern. So once I chose my pattern, I looked in the symptoms section of what that pattern might create, the type of symptoms that might show up if they had that pattern. And I chose a symptom, and then I wrote about it. I didn't write about the pattern. Well, I did sort of in a roundabout way, but first I wrote about the symptom. And really, I mean, to talk about symptoms, Google, get creative, find ideas. A marketing strategy person taught me one time that, or teaches me often, we got lots of great strategy people here at Meridia, but in any coaching that I've ever done, you got to have a catchy title. You got to have something that relates to the patients. I don't open up an email blog or a blog and start talking about the pattern of phlegm damp or liver yang rising. I don't do that. I talk about something that the patient will relate to. What does it feel like to have irritability? What does it feel like to just have had surgery and try to recover? So write about it, have a catchy title. I'm real big visual person, so I think there needs to be a graphic. You got to be careful when you are just choosing random graphics off of the internet, because it's not legal and you can get in trouble. So I've given you 2 websites here that you can go and choose pictures off of, that you're allowed to use them in your emails. You're allowed to use them on social media. You can use them anywhere you want. So I have given you 2 spots that you can go to get free ones. So that will help you. And then you're going to share food solutions in your email. And again, those food solutions are in AcuGraph 5. And then I taught you how to create recipes, whether you're going to create your own, whether you're going to Google and say, hey, here's a great recipe that could help with such and such, and give the link. That is all available for you. So here is the starting point outline that I used to create this. And what I did was I sort of created a template and just filled in the blanks. And once I had 12 of, well, I created 1 or 2 and got the process started, but eventually I had a dozen of them, and I just once a month started educating my patients in that way. I have another gift for you. My template. This really is how I did it. So in the template, it's sort of something for you to follow, and the pattern that I used in creating my email and blogs, I'm going to actually bring that up real quick and show you.
And I'll just point out really quick, Kimberly, that I've got that link up right now. So go ahead and click there. You can download the template Kimberly's telling you about, everybody. And also it'll have the Spleen Happy Meal handout as well, which you're free to take, use, customize, make it your own. It's just Kimberly's free gift to you. So grab that while I've got that link up there.
All right. And I was just going to show you. So here is my template. You want to the title, your real story that the patient can relate to. Make sure you have a picture. Then I jump into acupuncture theory. I talk a little bit about acupuncture theory, the philosophies of Chinese medicine according to this symptom. So let's talk about irritability. So irritability is a symptom related to an underlying condition known as, and then I can talk about liver qi stagnation. I give them a little bit of information, and then I give them a solution. Here are some foods you might add to your grocery list, and I give them a few. I don't give them the whole list that's in AcuGraph. I just give them a few so that they want to call me and I could give them more. I put in my bonus recipe, and then I give them a call to action. I tell them that, you know, here are some other things that Chinese food therapy helps with. And I ask them to give me a call for a free consultation. What I have found, I'm going to let you see what this looks like real quick. That I showed you the template here of how I would fill in the blanks. Once the blanks are all filled in, you know, lunch ideas for your irritable spouse, you know, here, and I gave theory, I gave food suggestions, I gave a bonus recipe, and then the call to action. So, you know, who's not going to open an email that says lunch ideas for your irritable spouse? Because, I mean, that sounds fun, right? I've given them something catchy to read in the beginning. So that was my thought process as I was creating these templates. Let me get back to my presentation here. So you have your fill in the blank template, which we are giving that to you. There's an example of, you know, what that email can look like when you're done. And, you know, I recognize that not everyone is creative. So therefore, I've given you the template so you could fill in the blanks. So you don't have to do the thinking process to come up with your outline. We've taught you how to come up with your own recipes. We've taught you how to just Google recipes and say, hey, here's a good recipe. We've taught you how to, well, I'll go more into that in a moment. If you're not very creative, I'm going to let Dr. Larson take it from here. This may interest you. It has to do with the 12 emails that I spent the last year creating, hours and hours.
Okay, so first of all, Kimberly, really, really great job. Very cool the way that you can use the TCM Foodie approach, using the AcuGraph grocery lists, coming up with recipes, using them to educate your patients, using them to reactivate your patients. Outstanding idea. And I'll admit, when Kimberly first started pitching this idea, she had a real uphill battle on her hands, because we kind of had a mindset, I kind of had a mindset, hey, we do acupuncture, we do technology, this food stuff is a fine hobby and everything, but it's not me. But she persisted, as Kimberly tends to do, and she did a tremendous job and really has turned this into something that is powerful and useful in your practice. Now, having said that, she had a picture up there of the 12 that she's already created. In fact, Kimberly, can you put that back up for a second?
Yep.
So these all follow the template that Kimberly has given you. And this is the kind of thing you could go create yourself. She's got them all pre-done, at least the first 12 of them. And here we go, I'll put that back up. You can see that there are different topics: arthritis, bad breath, constipation, grumpiness, insomnia, libido problems, and so on. On it goes. And these are all topics that are really applicable that you can use with your patients. So here's the situation. she had all these, and she said, I'm using these in my practice. I've created them. Do you think we ought to share them? And I said, well, you know what? You're going to save people a ton of time doing this, because if someone were to, if you sit down and start with a blank template and do all the work to find the recipe, put down the TCM theory behind it, find a graphic, put it all together, you're going to spend a couple of hours probably on each one of these topics trying to put it together. And so I said, you know, with all 12 of those, you have a whole year worth. That's the kind of thing that we ought to make available for like $200 to everybody. That would work out to like $16 a piece. That's a bargain price. She said, yeah, that's probably worth it. And I agree, but I also think that's way too much money. Just because, you know, times are tight. People need something that's really affordable. So the bottom line is we have these 12 pre-made for you if you're interested, and if not, that's fine too. To save you the time and trouble of putting them together, they're ready to go. They've got the graphics, they're yours. You can take the text and customize it in any way you want. And we've got those, we're introducing them at $99 for the package. Download them and go. And here's the best part. You'll notice, maybe you won't notice, but the foodie webinars haven't had as much attendance as our other webinars. And that's frankly been a little bit of a mystery to me. And I get it, you know, some people just think it's not applicable to them. But for those of you that actually showed up and came live to the webinar so that you could participate and interact rather than watching it later or kind of skipping this one because you didn't think it maybe applied, we want to reward you for that. So anybody that's interested, that wants those 12 handouts that Kimberly's already created, we've got those up for you for the next 15 minutes. Because you came live, your reward is that you can have all of those, the whole thing, for $69, which works out to $5.75 per completed recipe for success. So if you're interested, you can grab those. But only for the next 15 minutes. People that go back and, you know, that join us later that aren't live, they can still get it for $99. But that's your special reward for being here live with us today. And if you decide you'd rather do your own, we gave you the template for free. And either way, we just want to be a resource to help you build your practice and use AcuGraph to the utmost advantage in your practice. So there you go. That's what we put together, and I hope you find it useful and a real benefit in your practice. Back to you, Kimberly. The offer should be up on your screen there. Those that are interested, you can click, you can get them now. And you'll also see, if you go over there and click, there's another little bonus that'll come up that we've put together. So that'll be a fun little surprise too. Back to you, Kimberly.
I just wanted to say, we've had a huge, I get a ton of emails from people who have watched the TCM Foodie webinars. They're just not, we just weren't getting them live, and maybe that's because it was summer, but we're trying to reward you for being here live today, right?
Absolutely. You know, it's summertime and people are on vacation. By the way, if your screen isn't very big, that offer, it's kind of tall, and you may need to scroll down to get to the button where you can actually click through to get to these 12 pre-made recipes for you. So make sure you scroll down if you need to over there.
All right, I am going to jump back while you are finishing up there. So we've got the 12. Again, one of the ways that I try to do my own marketing is I spend hours. I spend probably a whole night every week working on content for emails, blog, website, those types of things. So having all of this available to you without the hours that needed to be put in, I hope that that you enjoy that. Let's get back to what did you learn during this webinar? You learned that in order to become an expert, you need to understand the TCM patterns, and that is available to you in AcuGraph. And as you are looking at the graph and hearing your patient's symptoms and putting it all together, I recommend that you just spend some time doing what it takes to become the expert of the TCM patterns. You learned about creativity. You learned how to make your own recipes. You learned how to Google for recipes. You learned how to creatively use TCM food dietary therapy to reactivate your patients. You learned how to help your new patients as they come in recognize that you are a huge resource for them as their symptoms evolve, because symptoms mean imbalances. And so always coming back to their symptoms, you want them to recognize that when they have symptoms, they need to call you. So they'll call you obviously because of acupuncture, and then they'll also call you because they need changes in their diet. And then you also learned that you can make money being a foodie. I would like to open up for questions at this point.
Kimberly, while you're doing that, let's go ahead and open it for questions. You can type a question over on the side there in the chat room. And I wanted to ask you a couple of questions, Kimberly, if I may, while other people are coming up with any questions they have. First of all, you taught us this process for taking the grocery list or the food list out of AcuGraph, Googling it to find recipes, customizing the recipes to make them most effective for that pattern, and then turning it into a patient education handout, which, by the way, can be used for blog posts, social media posts, emails, physical handouts that you hand out in your clinic, classes that you teach in your clinic. There's a whole variety of things. Once you have the information, there's a ton of things you can do. But my question, Kimberly, is, so how long do you spend on a typical one of these, finding the recipes and putting it all together?
Oh, probably a couple hours at least, 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
Especially in the beginning, as I was trying to gather information, by the time I pull it all together, come up, play around with the recipes, come up with social media content, put it on my website, send out an email. But
well,
it pays off.
Totally brilliant. It's great, and I think it's a real benefit to anybody who wants to start doing this with their patients, and I highly recommend that you do. All right, looking for questions here, and you must have done a tremendous job because I don't see a lot of questions coming in today, Kimberly. But I think you outlined it really well. Anything else that you think we should cover? What questions should people be asking? I got you off guard, didn't I?
We've got a question here. Can I customize the templates, translate it, but still use the photos? You'll be able to customize the template that I've given you is just an outline. So you can take that outline and create information in it yourself in any way that you want. As far as the ones that Dr. Larson offered, the graphics, I believe.
The graphics are all royalty free. You can use them any way you want. They're free, they're yours. You can put them on your website, your blog posts, handouts, you bet. And you can take that text that's included and you can copy it into your own, Word document or whatever, modify it, customize it any way you want. So the answer is yes. You can take what Kimberly's already created and do anything you want with it. You get full rights to all of it.
So hopefully we got your question answered, Marlene. If you buy it, it's available to you to utilize however you need to, however you want to. Call it your own.
Zero restrictions there. You can print off hundreds of them and hand them out to your patients, post them on your website, whatever you want to do.
Perfect. I hope that you just recognize that creativity is you have so many opportunities to be creative. Yeah. And I think you should have a cute apron when you teach class.
Maybe we'll do that as the bonus giveaway next time. We'll have a contest. Win Kimberly's apron. And then the grand prize winner gets to come to your house and you'll make him dinner. We'll come up with something.
That'd be fun. I would like that.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody who's joined us today. If we have any other questions, last chance to type them in. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and invite you, if you're interested, take advantage of that offer. The link is going to be active for a few more minutes and at that price for a few more minutes. But then we are serious. This is only for people that attended live. So in a few minutes from now, it's going to go up to the $99 price. And that's where it's going to stay for the introduction to the rest of the world. You folks that joined us live are the first to ever even see this. And we've been working very hard to put it together for you. All right. I think that's it. Oh, Cameron wanted me to add, let you know that you can add your own practice info to this, to these templates as well, or to these pre-made, done for you food handouts. And the other question I'm just going to find out where people can go after the webinar concludes if you're interested.
Also, on the last slide for me, I have, let's see. I want you to recognize that if you have questions for me, our webinars are obviously available for anyone who's in our professional or enterprise AcuGraph user plan. And so if you're watching this after the fact and you have questions, my email address is there. Feel free to send me an email and I will continue to answer questions even if you're not live. We love it when you're live. Those are our favorite webinars, but we definitely want these to be resources for you because as new AcuGraph owners come in, we want you to have the information.
All right. Well, thank you. We appreciate everything, everybody that's joined us today. Kimberly, I want to tell you, great job. I know this has been a huge deal for you. You've spent so much time and effort putting this together, and frankly, so much stress. Kimberly was pretty stressed this morning, wanting to make sure that this was perfect for everybody. So great job. We will see everybody next month at another live webinar, another topic. Thank you for joining us, and we're going to go ahead and sign off.
Let's go have lunch.
Let's go have lunch. Amen. All right. Goodbye, everybody.